Hello everyone, Andy here, and here's what you can look forward to in today's episode. In today's episode, I was joined by Daniel Harper from the Saints City Me podcast as we review Week 13 of the 2025 NFL season. We discuss a win for my Dolphins against Daniel's Saints.
It's going to be fine, it's going to be absolutely fine. And then, lo and behold, I'm watching and thinking, am I watching a different game here?
And we discuss a tight AFC North after the Bengals win over the Ravens on Thanksgiving. Hope you all enjoy.
That AFC North has got a bit more of a story to give us this season because they all look like they could beat each other.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I am as ever your host Andy Davis and we are here to review Week 13 of the NFL. Thanksgiving is done. It's now the crunch time of the season, and today with me I've got a first-time guest coming on the show today. He is the host of the Saints City Me podcast. With us today is New Orleans Saints fan, Daniel Harper. Daniel, first of all, welcome to the show. Good to have you on.
Hi, Andy. Thanks for having me. It's a privilege to be on. Thank you for the invite. How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Can't complain. It's sort of the best time of year for NFL fans. Is getting towards that crunch time of the season, but at the same time, you're thinking, well, for half the teams, if not more in the league, within 5 weeks, 6 weeks, the season's done. Yeah. So you think about all the long months of the off season, all the long, waiting around for the season to start, and within just over a month for me and you, is going to be our season is going to be done. So it's crazy how fast it goes.
You have the anticipation for the season arriving in your preseason. You get into the season, you're like, depending on how you're playing, you're like, okay, well, yeah, we might turn this around. Then you get to now, like for us, we've been eliminated this weekend. It's like, well, that's it now. It's like it's just you're up the top, and now you're on the way down. It is such a short seasonal sport. It is for those of us who are passionate about it. It's bittersweet how short it is, especially when you get to now and 6 games left. So.
We can't all be lucky like Chiefs fans in years gone by or Patriots where they get to have an extra month of games or even hope in their seasons. Now, we sort of touched on it. Then you are a New Orleans Saints fan. You do host a podcast based around the Saints. You are a first-timer, so we want to ask you the same question we ask all of our new guests as to why they support their teams. Out of all 32 teams in the league, what made you pick the New Orleans Saints?
So, first of all, I was watching the NFL, but I didn't have a team, and I was more like rooting for players that I liked. So you have your Brett Favres and your Daniel Tomlinson, those kind of players that you really enjoyed watching play. And I got to the point and said, I'm so invested in this now. I need to make a decision on what team I want to support. And I was very much on the page of I cannot be deemed to be a glory hunter. So straight away the Patriots are off the table. So I can't pick them as my team. And it was almost by accident. I was traveling back from the US. I was at the airport, and I just went into the news agents, picked up a magazine to read on the flight, and there was a few page spread around the Saints on the back of Katrina, the city bouncing back, drafting Reggie Bush, signing Drew Brees, and no one knowing what that was going to be about. And all I got from this story was how bad the Saints were, and I thought, do you know what? New Orleans is a pretty cool place. I'd love to go there. No one could accuse me of being a glory hunter, and this team's got a bit about them. So that was it. I decided that's my team. And people say to me, like some Saints fans will say to me, "Oh, well, you just supported us because of Drew Brees." I didn't know who Drew Brees was. Like I had no clue who this guy was because all I knew is he was like the guy who was the quarterback for Tomlinson, but Tomlinson was the star at the Chargers. So I was like, there's no influence there. And then I was at a French podcast recently. And I said, it's just a beautiful accident, really, for me to end up supporting them and what it's given me off the back of that. So that's probably maybe a long-winded. I don't know how long or short that is compared to previous answers you've got from people.
No, it's a great elaborate. Answer. It's a great answer. I mean, I'm curious to know as well. So you mentioned you were in the US when you picked up the magazine. Whereabouts were you in the US when you picked the magazine up?
So I think I was coming back from. It was like 2006. So my brain does get a little bit hazy on it. I think it was It was either Florida. It was either coming back from Florida or coming back from. I think it was Florida. And we was coming back from there. But my wife wanted me to be a fan of a New York team because she loves going to New York, and she said, "Why don't you just support one of the New York teams because it will be easy. We can go there like every year. I want to go there." And I was like, "No, this is my decision. I'm sticking with them." She tried to get me a flirt with the Jets for a little while, and I was like, "No, it's not. It's not happening. It's not happening. I'm committed."
Well, fair play. You timed it perfectly. I mean, you picked it, 2006, and within, 3-4 years, they were Super Bowl champions. So,
Yeah.
and easy could have been if there hadn't been that non-PI call back in 2018. So it's, I've said it before on the podcast. I love Drew Brees. He's my favorite ever quarterback, and he's, the first game I ever watched on TV was the Saints. So I could have easily been a Saints fan as well. I got a lot of love for Drew Brees. More than most other Saints players in history, certainly. And you even went to New Orleans recently. I saw, at the time on social media, and I want to say, I know you went to an LSU game the day before. I want to say, was it the Buccaneers or the Falcons you saw?
It was the Bucks game, yeah.
I knew it was. I remember being a division rivalry game, and obviously, we all know that didn't go quite to plan. But obviously, for you, I think you go with your family as well. I mean, that must have been really cool because despite the loss, just having that experience, watching it all together, and experiencing what is an incredible stadium in the Superdome.
Yeah, I mean, it was great because we got into the stadium early, and I consciously booked the block where the players' tunnel is because you're only allowed in there if you've got tickets for that section. Took my son down there early, got him to meet some players, which was great. He got Chris Olave gave him his gloves because my son got a bit brave and leant over the side and said, it was like he was getting a mini helmet signed, and he said, "Chris, it's my birthday. Can I have your gloves?" And it was his birthday the day before, and Olave was like, "Yeah, I got you," and just give him both his gloves. And pretty cool. They had like a 12 on the palm and Saints logo, so that was really cool. And then we did a friend of ours got us an opportunity to go on the pitch before the game, not like sideline passes, but as part of the player introductions, which was pretty cool for them, like as an experience. You can't really, it's kind of thing that money can't buy. And in terms of getting that, not so much my daughter, she's like 17, so she comes because I pay for her holidays, and she tolerates the sporting events. But my son, he's 13, he's at a very malleable age where I can probably get him to become more involved in the games and the fandom for me. So doing that kind of stuff where it makes an impression on him, right? I remember my younger brother like going to soccer games, and just realizing the players in the program are right in front of him, and it's just nice to see that for the kids, that moment of, oh, this is something that is cool. So yeah, he's got a signed shirt framed up that he got that stuff done, and I think he's a bit more of a collector than a active engagement on it. But it's good. It's good that I get to enjoy it with him, so it's pretty cool for me. So, and I get to take him to New Orleans, which is good as well.
Yeah, you can sort of make a family holiday out of following a team, but it's something it must be amazing because my dad and I, we share the love of Liverpool Football Club. I mean, he passed it down for me, and it's that kind of nice thing we have together. I mean, we've been to games together. We went to the parade together in May. Was it May? Yeah, May. We did that together. We've been to games at Anfield together, and it's so happened that my girlfriend's dad is also a Liverpool fan and actually got a season ticket. So he's actually taking me to watch Liverpool Wolves on the day after Boxing Day. So it's one of those things where for you, I imagine the same thing for my dad, having that thing you can share with your son, that love of that same team. Must be an amazing experience. And yeah, you can get a family holiday out of it as well. So it's sort of the win-win situation. And it's was any part of you that feared he might have chosen the Falcons, Buccaneers, or Panthers?
I think I've well versed him in my feelings about that. I've got in my bar, I've got a bin, and it's got a Buccaneers flag on it, a Panthers scarf, and Falcon stickers on it. So he pretty much knows my thoughts on our NFC South opponents. But he's a bit of a. I say this in jest. He's a bit of a sicko, right? Because he said to me, "Dad, can we go to another game this year?" And I said, I don't really think we can. It's expensive, and getting to New Orleans is difficult. But I don't really like flying with BA because I don't think they really give as good a service as other airlines. And he went, "No, it's okay. We'll go to Atlanta for an away game." And I was like, "You want to go to an away game?" He went, "Yeah, let's do it." And I was like, "No, it's not. It's happening." But I come and I celebrate his thought process around it. Like, oh well, I know Virgin fly direct to Atlanta, so we'll go there. It's like, all right, you thought it through, but it's a hard no this time around. I've got to convince the wife. That's the problem. It's not convincing me. It's convincing my wife that I'm going to take him away without her.
Oh, I love it. He's clearly on it. He knows what he's doing. Incredible. I mean, I'll never forget when I went to New Orleans for the first time. There was this little like cafe sort of bar place, and the banner, the sign outside said, "Most Mike Evans are welcome." So that sort of made me realise how deep the rivalry is between the Saints and the Buccaneers.
There's actually a barbecue place called Blue Oak Barbecue up in Mid City in New Orleans, and they actually they did have a picture of a Photoshop picture of Marshawn Lattimore carrying Mike Evans as a baby, and it was like it was a similar sort of thing. Everyone but Mike Evans is welcome. So the rivalry runs deep. Yeah, love
it. Well, let's go on to the elephant in the room. Our teams did play each other yesterday at time of recording, and it was a win for the Dolphins, but for me, it felt like, was it really a win? Because the fact we almost gave that game away, it was just crazy, because we were 16-0 up in the game, and we allowed you back into it, and we finally get that play. We're gonna win the game. Minka Fitzpatrick, I believe it was. I can't think whether it was off an extra point or was it off a 2-point conversion. But then what happens then?
It was 2-point conversion. He got it on the throw. Yeah.
But then what happens after that? You get the onside kick. And I was thinking at this point, you beat the Bills. We won in Madrid. We beat the Falcons. We got some hope in the season. Small chance, very small chance making the playoffs. And I'm thinking, is this how we're going to end our playoff hopes completely, by losing to what has been one of the worst teams in the league? And then thankfully, we got it done. The fourth down stoppage of Tyler Shuck. But for me, I was just watching and thinking, at one point, literally being so comfortable. Literally, I went for a meal with my girlfriend's parents last night in Cardiff, and I paused where I was, and I memorised where I was watching it on Game Pass. I came back like 3 hours later, watched the rest, very comfortable. We're 16-0 up. It's going to be fine. It's going to be absolutely fine. And then, lo and behold, I'm watching it thinking, am I watching a different game here? It was just absolutely insane. And I've got to credit the defense. They were the stars of the show for both teams. I thought both teams did really well defensively.
Yeah.
But in the end, someone had to win, and it was the Dolphins. So I mean, for me, I think the only people that really came out well on offense were probably Devon Achane, and that's about it. Maybe Darren Waller for the one catch he made, but yeah, my word, what a way to make a game that was so easy become so hard.
Yeah, it was. Definitely for obviously we was on the losing end. I do think our defense, played pretty well. We got Cam Jordan got a couple of sacks. Chase Young got a sack. Colin McKinstry with the interception. But as you said, like A-Chain just run all over us, and we couldn't really do much about it. There was a few blown coverage plays in the first half where I think our receivers could have been closer and got things done. But it's going to sound funny, but it was one of the most enjoyable games for us as Saints fans on this season, and purely because there was moments of excitement in there, which I'm a Saints fan who has fully, since last season, has been fully on board with this is a rebuild, right? And you have to recognise what a rebuild looks like. And I know you've, as a Dolphins fan, you've seen it in the past where they've looked to try and rebuild and reset the clock and get those early draft picks and stuff like that. So it's a difficult situation, but when you come at it with that mindset, I think it's a lot easier to watch games when you don't play as well, but you get things like Charlie Smith's field goal, Charlie Smith's onside kick, Vele looking fantastic, Shuck showing glimpses of what he might be able to do if he's got the right supporting cast around him. And I do think the play calling's a bit iffy from Kellen Moore, and if he can tighten that up, then there's something to be hopeful about, whilst also having what looks like a top 3 pick, right, where you can go out and get one of the top ends or wide receivers in the draft class. So I think there was reasons for optimism for us despite losing the game, but it was a first half. I was like, oh, here we go again. Second half just lifted my spirits a bit. So I think, there was stuff to be happy about and stuff to be a bit still stuff to work on. But we didn't get torched as much as I thought we was potentially going to. So because obviously your offense can be very explosive, right, at times. So it's like, is that going to be the case? Are we going to get shown up? I think it just shows that Staley's doing enough with the defense. If you give him, obviously we're in the middle of a shift from a 4-3 to a 3-4 and stuff like that. So it's going to take time, but it's promising, I think, from our point of view.
It's almost, especially in the season where especially now, the playoffs are out of reach, and you have known probably for the last 5 weeks or so. It is almost the best kind of things to have. You're losing games but still playing well. It kind of, if you think about the future and sort of getting that high draft pick, but you're still actually, you're not losing every game by 45-7. You're actually putting up a fight and making games interesting and having these moments like Charlie Smith, like everything else that happened, the catch from Chris Olave. That almost the best way it's going to be. You lose games, so you're getting high draft picks, but then you are also playing somewhat competitively and not getting blown out every game.
Yeah, and that's important. That for me, this season's been important. That I think if they'd got a middling record and was picking like 15th, I'd be like, this isn't really going to do us any good because we've got so many holes all over the team. But if you're being competitive but still losing, it's a bit it's not. It sounds to people who maybe don't understand like the NFL in its truest form. It's a bit win-win, right? Because you need to rebuild, you need the parts, but if you're showing that you're competitive, it makes you think, well, actually, we're being coached well. We just got to add those explosive pieces in there that we need to just build on it. And that's the way I sort of looking at it is like, okay, it's let's take the positives from it. It's you can't, I look at the Titans and I just think to myself, I don't even know where they start. We're probably quite a similar position to us, really. Their running back room's a little bit depleted. Wide receivers aren't, they look okay. We need to know what we've got a quarterback still, but a couple of stars on defense. Like for me, to finish the season now, we're out of the playoffs. I would lean into the youngsters as much as possible, whilst obviously keeping your Cam Jordans in there, just see if they can, pad their stats for like a Hall of Fame run and stuff like that. But I think you got to see what we've got out of this draft class this year for the rest of the season.
See, that's the one issue I have with our recent form. Now, it's been amazing to beat the Bills, and the Falcons' performance was great. And obviously, for myself personally, seeing us win in Madrid was amazing. But then looking at the mock draft later on, we were picking 12. Now, Aaron Donald's picked 11th, fair enough. But Micah Parsons, I think, was in that same realm. But I kind of think, is it a good thing we're winning games? Obviously, if you sneak into the playoffs, then absolutely fantastic. But at the same time, I don't think we are. We've got like a 1% chance of making it. So I kind of think, in a way, should we be losing games? Because, I mean, it depends how you pick, and often your front office makes the decisions for you. If you have a good front office, it doesn't matter really whether you pick 12th or 3rd. Look at the Eagles; their picks compared to some teams like the Jags and Browns who have high picks every year. So I don't know. Obviously the quarterback situation, we're not going to be the quarterback because Tua's contract's too big. We've got the running back and the receivers. We've got the tight end. It seems at the moment we've got a mixture of Hills blocking and Dolchich and Waller can make catches. And the defense, we've got some. So maybe it isn't the worst thing. Maybe you can find a gem defensive lineman or offensive lineman. Because I was speaking to Ben Isaacs on WhatsApp and he's saying there's not really a top O-line prospect in the top 10, so maybe you can go down there. So maybe it's not the worst thing in the world, but I kind of think as well, should we be wanting to lose games more because of getting a high draft pick? But at the end of the day, different offices, we got a new GM coming in next year. We don't know who that'll be yet, so maybe he's got something up his sleeve. But I did think that going into it, like at one point we were 2nd overall, now we're 12th overall. Is it a good thing of winning games?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you know the worst thing is as well, when you get a couple of wins towards the end, like we've done in previous years, and then you see the player who goes immediately before you, or in immediate picks before you. So last year, like Tet went to the Panthers not long before our pick, and then year before that, Brock Bowers goes to the Raiders, the pick before us, and just like, we were one pick earlier. But then I look at the Saints front office, I don't think they would pick them players anyway. They're very much a build from the trenches out kind of mindset. But I would love us to go and get the top pass rusher in this draft with our first pick, and with our second pick, go and get the top wide receiver who's left on the board, and then our third pick, go and get a running back, because I think that's where we need to, those skill positions, we really need to strengthen what we've got and just ride with Shuck and see how he plays out. And then if he's no good, then you're probably going to have a high pick next year to go and get a quarterback. Because this quarterback class at college is a bit, I don't know from 1 week to the next if who's other than Mendoza, and I'm still not sure if he's the player they say he's going to be. So it's like maybe just ride Shuck.
Yeah, it's that thing about you may not have a chance again to pick this high. I mean, this is the whole reason they said for the Falcons picking Penix when they had Cousins through the door. Like you may never get a chance. You may never get a chance again to pick this high. So it's that thing where if there is a quarterback you like, then do you go for that? But at the same time, are there bigger holes to fill? You know more than me. So it's that weird thing where you can go out and get a top receiver or top lineman, and then you pick 9th overall, but then you're in the 2027 draft, but then you're potentially regretting not taking, Mendoza or whoever the quarterback top prospects are.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Shuck has shown me enough. Like in the game yesterday, those throws for the touchdown I thought were very good throws. There are some elements. The O-line's a bit all over the place. We need a left guard. Probably need a right guard. We're down our starting centre, so straight away the middle of your offensive line is makeshift or not to the standard you need it to be. So, but I've seen enough from him. He uses his legs. He goes through his progressions well. The picks are there, but I don't mind seeing the picks because it shows you where he needs to sharpen up for his second season and what they need to work on. So, I think I'd happily let him show where his faults are this season, and they can spend the off season working on it. And if it doesn't work out next year, then that you've got to move on. But you've got obviously he's on a 4-year deal as a second round pick. So you think, well, we'll see what we've got with that. And if it's not going to work, then we're probably going to be in a pretty bad position anyway to pick a decent quarterback anyway. Like, I don't know, next year maybe like Arch Manning looks good in his next year at college, and might go for him, or some of these players who are probably going to go back this year to college. So it's interesting to see what they need. But I do think from what I've seen this season so far, there's bigger holes in needing to go QB with our first pick. And unless we get the very first pick of the draft, in which case I would look to draft back and see if you can get some picks out of it. And if someone gets desperate for, if the Raiders get desperate for a QB and they want Mendoza, then if they want to give us a couple of first round picks, then let's go. I'm all here for it. Yeah,
I mean, you mentioned your line. I mean, there was a lot of flags on your line yesterday, and I want to say, was it Tally's Fuaga who kept drawing flags? So
Fuaga was the one who got the flag, which got us when we was going to go for 2 points at the end, and then Fuaga got a flag which pushed us back, because I think we would have probably run the ball, tried to run it in like we did on the first 2-point conversion, but we obviously, and then Chuck throws the pick, and which Fitzpatrick returns. But yeah, Fuaga, we switched Fuaga, so he was playing left tackle last year. And this year we switched him to right tackle, which is where he played in college. I think he's dealing with an injury because he's looked pretty shaky. He's looked a bit shaky compared to last year where he looked very good. So again, maybe it's a case of rehabilitating over the off season and seeing how he looks next year. But 2 first round picks on tackles, you expect them to be the right standard.
Yeah. Learning curve, I think, for everyone involved. And quick final point on the game, we did touch on it earlier. I mean, it was a great day for kickers. Riley Patterson had all 4 field goals converted, and his only extra point he also converted. But Charlie Smith, as UK fans and Iron fans, this is something that we should be all excited about. He had, for a while, I was thinking, is he going to get much involvement, because he had the kick to start the game, but then He went for the 2 points the first time. Then I was thinking, is he going to get a chance to kick again? On his one chance, he's not going to get a chance off that one moment. But then he had his chance of plus 50 yards field goal. He did get it with a fair amount of conviction. It wasn't like even like he didn't like just go over or hit or doink off the post. It was pretty convincing kick. And people, I'm sure now have seen the clip of I think it's Mayo Bridge where he's from in Ireland, but the pub that people were watching the game in, and his parents, and Michael McQuaid, friend of the show, and him and Mark were there with them yesterday, the family as well that weren't in Miami watching the game in Hard Rock. And I think we've seen people before, like I love O.C. Wanyora, but born in London, but let's face it, he's American. But an actual British guy or Irish guy in Charlie Smith.
Irish guy, yeah.
Amazing moment for him. And I'm just glad that he didn't, the worst nightmare you're going to have is what Jude had in Giants, and he missed the kick, he got abuse on social media. But to make that kick and to do well with that kick, for me was just, I think as all British fans, to see a true Brit doing well on the NFL field was a really cool thing to see.
Yeah. And so funny enough, I was having a conversation with Jay Lawrence earlier today about it, and I said the intriguing thing about Charlie, or the uniqueness about Charlie, is Dan Whelan, born in Ireland, went to the US when he was a kid. Graham Gano, born in Scotland, went back to the US when he was a kid. OC the same. Jay Ajayi went over there when he was a teenager. Jack Crawford, a teenager. They all went over and played a form of either high school football or college football. And even Jude obviously went and kicked for Rutgers in college. Charlie's gone over there having never played college football, community college football, or high school football. And, that is, I think that's a testament to his character, that he's got that belief in himself, that he thinks, I don't need that experience because I've got the talent to do it. And he's just worked really hard. He sat last year, doing what he was doing in training, and the opportunities come. And I think he's firmly taking it, because as you said, that kick probably had another 10 yards on it, looking at where it came down. So he probably would have been good from 66. And it was straight as well, which is important. And I think not that you see them that much anymore, but obviously seeing that he can do an onside kick, I think that's it just shows that he's got the ability in that leg to do what he needs to do. And I think the last thing is obviously doing it in that stadium where Morstead did the famous onside kick in the Super Bowl. I think just it endears him even more to Saints fans to see an onside kick in the first time we played in the Hard Rock since we played there for the Super Bowl. I know it was the Sun Life then. It wasn't Hard Rock when we was at Super Bowl. But,
I think that's what it's called. Yeah, it's fair play to Charlie. Very nice lad. I mean, Jay's met him, and we both met him in New Orleans in February, and he is just genuinely wants to speak to you, and incredibly nice guy. So fair play to him, and hope he continues on this trend going for the rest of the season and beyond. Moving
fantastic.
on, we'll touch on basically one game each I've caught eye. Whether it's Thanksgiving, whether it's Sunday. We'll go to you first, Daniel. Well, what game did you find caught your eye the most over the whole week 13?
It's a funny week 13, because obviously you have those four games on Thursday and Friday, and it sort of breaks the week up. I always forget to do my pick'ems. I think for me, two games that stood out for me on the Thanksgiving ones, the Bengals beating the Rams with Joe Burrow coming back. I just think it's did Joe Burrow come? Joe Burrow did come back, yeah. I think that was a surprise to me. And obviously that division, it's like what is it? I wrote a note of this. The Rams are 6-6 leading that division. And you think how bad the Bengals have been. They're only 2 games back from them. And the Ravens, they're so all over the place. Like, you don't know which Ravens are going to turn up. It's like, that was a surprise to me. And it makes me wonder whether that AFC North has got a bit more of a story to give us this season, because they all look like they can beat each other. And it could be a very, very much a surprise. Maybe Mike Tomlin's winning season run could come to an end this year, because it's a bit wide open there. But I also think,
sorry to interrupt you, Daniel. Just want to touch on that very quickly. I'm looking at the Ravens' final few games. You mentioned about the AFC North being tight. They've still got to play 2 games against the Steelers and also a game in 2 weeks' time against the Bengals. So I think that those 3 games, I think, are so crucial to this AFC North how it finishes because let's face it, all 3 teams haven't been great, and I think all 3 teams, have got a case now to win that division. The Bengals probably less, but then if they can beat the Ravens in Week 15, and let's say the Steelers and Ravens share that AFC North, so one wins at home, the other one wins the other time. The Bengals, that's the Bengals' chance if the Pittsburgh Steelers and Ravens keep finding ways to be hit and miss, be inconsistent. If they can just get Burrow back now, they get the form back, and they can beat the Ravens Week 15, there's still a chance for them, despite starting the season 3-5, 3-6, whatever it was. I think this AFC North is, I think maybe through great play, is becoming one of the more interesting divisions in the whole NFL.
Yeah, and you think like the Ravens' record, they wouldn't even get a wild card spot at the moment if you actually didn't have divisional winners and you just went on pure record, they wouldn't even have a wild card spot. So it's like we had that in the South for a couple of years. It was very much sort of low records and just does anyone want to win this division? And I think that's because the teams are also poor. I think this is probably where they're quite. I think it's always a competitive division. I think the AFC North, aside from the Browns, but it's one of those ones where I think it's because it's a stronger division. That's why it's you never know who's going to come out of it. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see that one. I think that gives us something to keep an eye on for towards the end of the season, where other divisions are, teams are sort of running away with it a little bit. So yeah, there was that one. How about you? What games caught your eye?
For me, I realised I did interrupt you. You were going to say a second game, but the one
right.
I had for me was the most recent one was Broncos Commanders. Now, obviously, Chiefs Cowboys is one I think everyone had their eyes on because of the kind of the building into the game. I don't know whether I've not seen the stats whether it has been the most viewed game in regular season history, but it's probably up there. But I thought for me, Broncos Commanders was such a compelling game. I mean, he went to overtime. It was a win for the Broncos, 27-26 against the Commanders. I mean, it had I think, genuinely one of the greatest catches of the 21st century from Treylon Burks. I mean, people saying automatically comparing it to OBJ, and I think you can make an argument it's better than OBJ. I think the one thinking of against him is the fact that they lost. He won't be remembered that much in that sense. But what I thought for me was really impressive was, first of all, in the big moments, the defense came up for the Broncos and got the job done. You had obviously the fourth down play in overtime. I believe it was Nick Benito who got the vital play on that fourth down. And I think to make these, I think this Broncos defense is maybe the best in the league, if not one of them. But so I was really impressed with how they, in a big moment, they got it done because we saw the Colts against the Texans. What happened there with the supposed good defense, but for me, I think what impressed me was just it was Bo Nix. It was Bo Nix. Now, Bo Nix, I don't really think is the best quarterback league. I think he's had a really poor season. But I think the defense will carry him. It could even be like a Trent Dilfer situation with the Ravens all those years ago. But what I was really impressed with that one touchdown he made where he was almost falling to the floor and he made the catch. And Bo Nix is getting a lot of praise for his clutchness in fourth quarters. And, he has these moments. And I think what I saw in this game was him when the chips were down, when he's getting torched by this Commanders defense, when he looks like he's going to take a sack and go to the floor, he makes a play and gets his team where he needs to. And I think you think about, I think this Broncos team for me are a team that could easily be the number one seed and host that AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
You think with the altitude, you think about what Bo Nix has shown towards the end of last season. He learned a lot from that Bills loss in the wildcard round. Bo Nix is, he's giving me Eli Manning vibes. I'm not going to lie. Eli Manning was not, let's face it, he wasn't a good quarterback. He had 2 good seasons, really. He only made the playoffs in those 2 seasons he won it. But he made the moments in the big moments and made the plays that he needed. And I think Bo Nix look like he could be that same kind of quarterback where he could be struggling, but he finds a way when the chips are down to get it done. So for me, that game for me was brilliant. Once again, called brilliantly by Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth. And there was some really good, plays from Mariota in this game. I thought he made some really good, important third down plays. There was that catch to McLaurin that got ruled out, got pulled back, and I just thought this game was overall, as a neutral watch, this game, there's no real horse in the race. It was just end to end. Both teams were making crucial plays, some great catches, and not even just from Treylon Burks. So for me, this game I thought was the most from a game that I wasn't expecting much from going into it. I thought it'd be an easy Broncos win. I was really surprised how good it was.
Yeah, it's nice when you get those surprises in those games where you think it's not going to be much of an event, and then it proves you wrong, and it's gives you something to get excited about when it's not your own team, when you're cheering them on.
Yeah, I agree, and it's those are the best games because you have these games where they're built to be good games, and they can sometimes let you down. There's been a lot of big games this year. I remember Buccaneers Rams. Was it Buccaneers Rams? Yeah, Buccaneers Rams a couple of weeks ago, where I was really excited for it. I was thinking, it's going to be so good. Baker Mayfield, Matt Stafford, and it was just a complete one-sided affair. Whereas a game like this, where you're not expecting it to be that good, and even Commanders Bears last year with the Hail Mary. So, and I think for me, this game was. I think it proves that Commanders can be good when Daniels is back, because I'm sure if he was playing, it would have been a different story. But, fair play. Good win for the Broncos. We mentioned the Chiefs losing. They're now 4 wins clear of the Chiefs and 3 wins clear of the Chargers. Or are they 2 wins clear? Either way, it's looking like
2 wins clear of the Chargers, 10-2 the Bucks are. Them and the Patriots sitting. What year is it? The Bucks and the Patriots sitting at 10-2. It's just was it 2016?
We've gone back to the Manning and Brady era. But
2015.
It's looking like they're not going to do it. Then they may even struggle to make the playoffs, the Chiefs, at this stage. So it's fair play. It's good seeing something different happen. I remember having a lot of joy when PSG didn't win the French league, or when Barca Madrid don't win the Spanish league, and it's always good when someone different wins it. And I think I think as fans, I think if the Chiefs don't make the playoffs, I think for us, it is just one of the ones where I think. I don't actually hate the Chiefs. I just hate that they win games. I don't hate Mahomes, but I hate him always being in Super Bowl. So for me, I've generally only watched. Think about it last week. I think I've only seen literally my first Super Bowl I watched was in full was not even just anything. Was Broncos Seahawks, where Manning had the fumble over his head and the safety.
Yeah.
Since then, I've only seen, I think, 2 Super Bowls without Brady or Mahomes. I've seen Burrow against Stafford, Super Bowl 56, and then I had, I think, is that it? There's got to be one more after that. Manning against Cam Newton. But apart from that,
it's 2015. Yeah.
Yeah. Apart from that, it's always been Brady Mahomes in the AFC. I'm sure I'm missing one, but either way, it's just not. It would just be nice seeing someone different involved. I don't want it to be the Bills or Patriots, but certainly if it is a Broncos, if it is a Chargers, or if it is a Ravens or Bengals, for me, that I think as fans, so much more refreshing if it is someone who isn't the Eagles, who isn't the Chiefs. I think that as NFL fans, as long as it's not your team, your rival team involved, I think you can get behind it. Certainly.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fans out there who almost turned their back, who became who were NFL fans, but fully embraced the sport, turning their back on the Premier League a little bit and soccer because, people got just bored of, Man City dominating or Man United or whoever. And obviously the NFL gives you that parity because of the way it's set up. And it works the same way for if you're a bad team. If you're a bad team for like more than 4 years, you've got something wrong with your front office because the way the system's designed, you should be able to pick yourself back up. It's just unfortunate the Jets and the Browns just seem to be poorly run. It must be incredibly frustrating for their fans. But that's what people like. They like the fact that you can go from, like the Bengals went from being worst to first, and it gives you something to think who's it going to be this year. So whilst I know Chiefs fans get very frustrated that they think everyone hates them, it's not they hate them. They just want to see someone else in there because it gets boring and repetitive. And the same way that people didn't like the Patriots, probably more than anyone else being in that division with them. It's like. It's nothing personal. We just don't want to see you every single Super Bowl in it because it takes away one of the big incentives for being an NFL fan, which is you see that churn, you see that variety. You never know who it could be one year to the next. So, sorry, Chiefs fans, we just want to see someone else at the dance. That's all it is.
It's so true. I remember hating Roger Federer because he kept winning Wimbledon, and looking back, I'm thinking, why did I hate him? He's such a likable guy. Like, why did I ever? And it's because he kept winning. I think at like 5 or 6 straight. And I remember because I was really into tennis at one point. I remember really wanting him to lose games when actually he's probably more likable than Nadal or Djokovic or Murray. So it's funny how it can make you how winning can make you dislike certain things. But I think you're right.
We just like underdogs, don't we? That's what it is. We love an underdog. That's who we are.
Everyone loves an underdog. That's why I love that Eagles Patriots Super Bowl more than many others, because it was the Nick Foles show and the underdog mentality. But it is a sport where you can punish glory hunters and you can reward loyal fans. Think about Chiefs fans who were fans in 2009, 2010, obviously not knowing what's about to come. And you think about, I said it before, but you think about a Brit could have easily sat there in the Super Bowl and watched the Broncos win against the Panthers and gone, right, they're a good team, I'm going to support them.
Yep.
Until last year, they've not made the playoffs since. And, you think about the Giants in 2011, they've won, 2 the last 4 Super Bowls. Let's pick them. And they've won 1 playoff game, I believe, or maybe 2 since.
Yeah, you can never guess which way it's going to go. And all it takes is one bad move, one bad transaction, and it all falls apart. One bad coaching decision, I mean, there's a lot of like sometimes I'm guilty of this as well, because I probably wouldn't have been able to name some historic Saints players. But sometimes you want to go to some of those Chiefs fans. Like, do you even know who Jamal Charles was? Like, he was one of the players that they built that team on before. Obviously, blew his knee out, and but they were. You get the hipster teams right in the NFL. It was the Chiefs, and it was as sort of Alex Smith to Mahomes. They became the hipster team. Then people flirted with the Browns being the hipster team. Then now it's the Lions right now, and it's normally whoever goes on Hard Knocks, because people sort of watch it and they go, "Oh, I quite like these guys." So it's always interesting to see who's going to be the next hipster team. So I'm not sure it is right now, but it's the Lions era of hipster team is coming to an end, I think, and then it'll be someone new. Maybe it'll be Denver. Who knows? Who knows?
I remember being heartbroken when Baker lost that playoff game to the Chiefs. I remember being really, because I've always loved Baker. I remember being really behind that Browns team that year. They beat the Steelers, and then Mahomes goes down. I'm thinking, oh my God, they could actually make the AFC Championship.
Yeah.
Not meant to be.
But Andy, ain't that an example of a poorly run team? Because they didn't have the patience to wait for Baker. They didn't see what they had, and then he goes to LA, looks good, and goes to the Bucks, and it's seamless for them, really. I know you're not going to replace Brady, but and then I look at what we've done trying to replace Drew, and it's we should have just taken Baker rather than go after Derek Carr. But hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I always say, because I heard Baker was being criticised a lot. He was quite inconsistent at the Browns. I mean, he had, if you're looking at the stats particularly, the comparison in seasons, he had 1 good season and 1 bad year, and 1 good and 1 bad. We think about if they'd kept Baker and they kept those draft picks as well, and how it's gone since. Now, I do believe that Baker he's basically what he's now because he worked with McVay. I think those 5, 6 weeks, whatever it was, working with McVay, I think has really helped his career. But I kind of think, if you had that version of Baker Mayfield in the Browns team they got now with Judkins, but with those draft picks extra, I think this Browns team generally could have made the Super Bowl, or at least an AFC Championship game if they kept the draft picks and Baker. I do believe that if Baker had, if they got the right coach, and I think that's part of the issue as well. They had a lot of coaches, a lot of OCs, DCs. But I think if you had, I think Stefanski is a good coach, to be fair to him. So I think, if he stayed there and they kept the draft picks, I do believe they might have done that. But it's a wonderful thing, because I don't think many people were. I think the thing was more, why are you giving up draft picks for a guy with this much baggage when Baker Mayfield had not really much baggage? But it's strange, because I remember at the time people weren't as high as they are now on Baker, and I do believe that time in LA has really helped him. We'll go quickly through a few results. Now I want to touch on quickly on Thanksgiving. But before we do that, the rest of Sunday's results. Black Friday saw the Bears beat the Eagles to go 9-3 and number one in the NFC seedings. The Rams had a shock loss to the Panthers by 31-28, a game that friend of the show Keg was at, our resident Panthers fan of the season previews. He was at, or the Panthers Magpie as well, he's known as. What a day for him. Niners beat the Browns 26-8, their first win in Cleveland for a long, long time. The Texans beat the Colts 20-16 in a huge result for the AFC South. The Jets got their third win of the season with a walk-off field goal as they won by 27-24 to the Atlanta Falcons. And the Buccaneers edged out the Cardinals 20-17. The Jags beat the Titans 25-3. And the Seahawks demolished the Vikings 26-0. The Bills go back to winning ways. They beat the Steelers 26-7. And the Raiders lost the Chargers by 31-14. But quickly, and we are recording this before the Giants Patriots. We don't know who's won that game yet. That is on in about 2 hours' time. And then, of course, we mentioned the two Thanksgiving games. We had Bengals Ravens. You mentioned it then, 32-14. Then we had the Packers beating the Lions 31-24, and the Chiefs taking on the Cowboys, and the Cowboys winning by 31-28. Now, I wanted to touch on two little things about this before we end the show today. I mean, first of all, do you think the Lions could actually miss out on the playoffs altogether?
Well, yes, and they're not in a playoff spot at the moment. Who's got it? So the Bears have got it, and then Green Bay at 8-3-1. So there is a chance here, and it wouldn't surprise me. You lost your DC, you lost your OC. Like, it's going to have an impact on things there. I think I don't know what their fixtures are. How many times they've got to play the Vikings? Like, the Vikings look a bit of a mess at the minute. Letting Darnold go and keeping McCarthy looks like hasn't been the best decision right now. That may change. I'm a big fan of Kevin O'Connell up there. I think he's a great coach, but maybe a bit off more than he could chew with this one. But yeah, I think there is a real possibility that the Lions could miss out in the playoffs if things don't go their way. They're not in the driving seat right now.
I mean, you mentioned the fixtures. They got the Cowboys and the Rams in the next two games. Then they got the Steelers, who can be a tough team. They've caused problems for teams before. I can't think who they beat early on in the year. That was a bit of a shock result. It was the Colts. Then they got the Vikings. By then, McCarthy back, with that defense, and Jefferson, you never know. And then they got the Bears in Week 18. So I think it's a good chance they don't make it now. And I put the Chiefs against the Lions as my Super Bowl pick pre-season. I mean, that's looking like a terrible decision right now because both teams on the playoffs altogether. But yeah, I mean, I've been critical of Goff throughout his career. I do believe that he goes missing in big games, or he struggles in the big moments. I mean, you think what happened in that Commanders game, or particularly what happened in the second half of the Niners game in the NFC Championship game. I do believe he's a quarterback like that. Goes missing when it matters, and if they can stop the running game, which I can't remember what I think Gibbs got. Looking at this, 68 yards. The Packers stopped Gibbs, and they stopped Montgomery, and they stopped the Lions. I do worry about that.
St. Brown went out injured as well, didn't he?
Yeah, that's big
in the game.
That is big. Yeah,
awful for my fantasy team.
Well, I believe Zay Flowers, he got 0.60 points in one of my leagues. Awful.
Yeah,
but
it's funny season.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's been a good season. I've loved how even it's been, but I've got to give Packers credit. I mean, Jordan Love was superb. I mean, 4 touchdowns. Looking at particularly more Christian Watson, 80 yards, 1 touchdown.
He's looking good since he's come back, Watson. I think he's made some big, decent plays. Be nice. I'd really like to see him have a period without injury, because he came into the league, looked like a great receiver. Just been so unlucky with injuries since he's been in the league. But yeah, Rodgers moaned for years about not having a receiver at Green Bay, and they've got about 6 of them now who are better than anything other than Devontae Adams and Jordy Nelson.
I genuinely think, like, if that receiver group they got now was there a few years ago when Rodgers was there, was just Adams, I don't think they might have made a Super Bowl, because Adams is better than all those receivers combined. But then you think about the balance of the offense. You're not just relying on just one guy and a very average Alan Lazard. You've got,
or Valdez Scantling and players like that. Yeah,
it's so much more options for him to choose from, and and obviously didn't have Micah Parsons when he was in Green Bay towards the end. So it's a team. I think I question whether Love can do it again. I question his gate, whether he is the guy that can win a Super Bowl. But certainly, I think they're a team that's going to be in that divisional round, if not more. I think they're gonna cause some problem. I think that defense is a scary thing for the Packers. I do believe that. So interesting time for the NFC North. But then finally, touched on the Chiefs earlier. I want to touch on the Cowboys. Amazing win for them. Now they currently sit 3 wins behind the Niners. Have they left it too late to make the playoffs?
So they what are they on? Six wins,
5-1, but they are 2 wins off the Eagles.
2 backs off the Eagles, yeah.
So that's their. I think they've got to play the Eagles. I'm looking at it now. They've got to play the Eagles.
Did they beat the Eagles earlier in the season?
It was a 21-0 comeback win 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so they've got one head to head.
Oh yeah, they played them twice already. They played them in.
Oh, have they?
Yeah, they played them in week. Where is it?
I knew they played them early. Was it because Prescott had a good game, but they lost?
Oh yeah, the opener. The opener when Jalen Carter spat on. Yeah, that's right. But the Eagles are looking in a tough spot right now. But they've got the Lions. If they can beat the Lions, they've got to play the Vikings, the Chargers, the Commanders, and the Giants. There's a good amount of wins there. And if I get the Eagles schedule up, it's not favourable to them, as a result of being the Super Bowl champions and division winners. But, I do think the way the Eagles are going, with all the stuff going on off the field, they've got the Chargers, the Raiders, the Commanders, and the Bills. That Bills game, if the Cowboys can keep winning and the Eagles say they lose to the Chargers and then they lose to the Bills, God, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Pickens is really onto something this year, and him and Dak seem to have got some great. I'm a big fan of George Pickens. I'm not sure Pittsburgh was the right situation for him. In the right team that channels that aggression, I think he's a really good wide receiver. I've got him in multiple fantasy leagues, and I'm really pleased to see him looking like the player that I thought he might be when he came out of Georgia. So, I spent 5 years watching Mike Thomas fight for everything. So seeing a receiver like George Pickens, who's got that fight in him as well, obviously is endearing to me for sure.
I think it's been one of the stories of the season in terms of player resurgences. I mean, a guy that was criticised a lot, but when he went to he's gone to the Cowboys and he's been understudied to CeeDee Lamb. He's been the WR2, but he's been easily one of the best, if not the best, second choice receiver in the league this year. He's been unbelievable, and he's had more highlight plays than Lamb. I know Lamb gets targeted more and gets covered more, but Pickens, the catches he was making in that game on Thanksgiving were incredible. And I think what I like to see from the Cowboys that they fit quite nicely. The first half we saw a lot of Lamb, not much of Pickens. And then second half they changed it up. You saw a lot more Pickens, and I think certainly if they give them the extension. I think next year the Cowboys, if their defense seems to have been not too bad after the loss of Parsons. They've found some, Kenny Clark's come in, done a good job, and obviously they've had to deal with a lot of difficulties off the field this year as well. So fair play to this Cowboys team that they've really rallied the troops in difficult times. And I think next year this Cowboys team could genuinely be a team to look out for. I don't think they're a team that wins a Super Bowl, but certainly making waves, making the playoffs, maybe even going to the NFC Championship game. I think the Cowboys could be a dark horse for that next year. I really do.
Definitely very interesting to see how NFC East shakes out. I'm hoping the Giants finish in the same position as the Saints because we've got the NFC East away next year. So a little trip for me and the wife over to the Big Apple would do nicely and give me some brownie points. So that's what my main focus is on the NFC East. But yeah, George Pickens, 1,100 yards already this season. for a guy who was like an 800-yard receiver previously, is good. I think really good.
Yeah, I agree. He's been amazing. And I love you mention that because I got a friend of mine. Shout out to Naeem if you're listening, a Colts fan. He's always wanted to go to a game at Lucas Oil, and this year we were like, "Well, we're playing each other in Indianapolis. Let's try and do it." And then they announced the fixtures. It was in week 1. I was at a wedding. We thought, "Oh, this year, next year even we'll go and try and because we're playing the AFC South again on the road next year." We're like, "Oh, I can see the Colts finishing third, Dolphins finishing third, or Colts finishing second, us finishing second. What happens? Colts might win that division. We might finish third. So it looks like we're not going to be playing the Colts away. But it's the scheduled gods are a real thing. That May date comes on when they announce all the team, the videos and all. I'm thinking, right, what can I do this year? And I'm always thinking about hopefully this game falls on that game. And it sounds like you're doing the same thing with New York.
Yeah. Yeah, last year I'd actually booked my flights and hotel before the fixtures came out, so it was a very nervous announcement. And so all the noise was coming out. The Saints were playing in LA the weekend that I'd booked, and I was like, "All right, we'll just go to a Tulane game or an LSU game." And one of the beat writers for the Saints, who I know, messaged me and went, "Hold on, I think they've got it wrong. I think there's." I think they're at home to the Bucks, and I woke up and they were but massive. Went to LSU anyway, so I did double header, LSU on the Saturday and the Saints on the Sunday, so worked out well for me. A triple header of sports that weekend. So
that's amazing. I mean, that's one thing I don't have with my sports teams in the US are all over the place. So you've got Edmonton in the hockey, you've got Golden State with the Warriors, then you've got the Dolphins and the Cubs. Although the Cubs is the least of the 4 in terms of fandom, but I can't have that week. I probably would go to a game if it was there because I like watching the sports, but I think I definitely see the appeal of having the same city. You follow this team or that team, like the Pelicans, or I can't think who their hockey team is in New Orleans, if they even have one.
So there isn't. So I'm a Rangers hockey for hockey. I'm a New York Rangers fan, so I have a New York team. But it works nice because of the way the season works. If you're there for a week, any team with any city that's got both a basketball and football team, you've got a good chance. If you're going to a football game, there'll be a home game in a basketball during that week, just because of how many games they play. I've never seen the Pelicans win though. I've been to see them 3 or 4 times. It's not great.
It's incredible. I couldn't believe it when I was in Boston. Within 4 days, they had a Patriots game, 2 Boston Bruins games, and a Celtics game. In literally the 4 or 5 days I was in Boston, it's incredible. And that just the Americans, their thirst for sport is quite something. I don't think any other country really has, if I'm honest. So it's good if you like American sports. But that is where we will end the show for today. So Daniel, first of all, thank you for coming on today. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed the conversation. It's been fun.
Well, good to have you on. I'm sure we'll get you on again in the near future. But for those who are listening who want to hear more of Daniel, where can they find you and the podcast on socials?
So podcast is Saints City Me, and that's on all platforms. So Insta, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And then my handle is Procrastinatus. Again, same on everything. So just check us out. Even if you're not a Saints fan, I think we've got some interesting episodes that we've done in the past. We did like an episode with Jeff Reinbold once. There's a former Saints player called Delvin Bro who broke his neck and managed to come back and play football. That's an interesting episode. So if people want to check it out, please give us a look and see what you think. Always welcome any feedback. So we'd like to think we're a bit of a half football show, half travel guide for New Orleans. That's how we pitch ourselves. So if you're thinking about going to New Orleans, we might have some stuff for you.
Well, amazing stuff. Yeah, do check it out if you haven't already. And it will be obviously when we put the post out on socials, will be tagged all that as well, so you'll be able to see the handle on there as well. But in the meantime, this has been our Week 13 review on Across the Pod with, as ever, your host today, Andy Davis, and our guest today in the same city's me, Daniel Harper. And we'll see you guys next time. Take care.